Exactly. Around the world, people drink 3 billion cups of tea a day. I don't know why you need to know that, but now you do. Okay. And on Great Day, we will be responsible for at least 4 of those cups today. If invited to a tea party, would you know the proper rules of etiquette at such an affair? We'll get schooled by our tea teacher today. Before our first guest today, teaching the gospel is all in the family. Her parents, John and Dodie Osteen, started Lakewood Church in an abandoned feed store back in 1959. Growing up a preacher's kid was sometimes, well, it was challenging.
I know you think that I never kissed a boy until I was married, but the first kiss I got was was when I was 16 behind the old church by a boy in our church.
All right, Joel.
Well, I had to make a confession to Lisa first. I paid that boy to kiss her.
Well, when the patriarch of the church, John Osteen, was overseas spreading the gospel, it was his daughter Lisa who would stand in the pulpit and preach in his place. When he passed away, many wondered if Lisa would become the new pastor at Lakewood.
Time is not our enemy, and God doesn't even see it that way at all. You see, God uses time for his purpose and your good. He has a purpose and a plan in his timing, and we just got to get good with that.
Well, as we all know, it was her brother Joel who answered the call, but she still encourages people through the word. Please welcome pastor and author of You Are Made for More, Lisa Osteen Comes. Welcome.
Good to be here.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, wow. Okay, so you've written this book finally. Why now?
You know what? I've had it in my heart for a long time, but I just want to encourage people not to give up no matter what they're going through, because I've been through some stuff.
Yeah, you've been through some stuff, and we're going to talk about some of that stuff in a little bit. But
Yes.
First, I want to talk about just your life growing up. You've become kind of this first family of America, you know, and especially in our church world. So, as a child, a lot of us remember the days when we went dragging and screaming to church, right? You get up, wake up. So, was there ever a moment for you where it was like, oh, I just want to sleep in, or was it just always really a part of your life?
It was. It was sort of a natural part of our life, and you know, we enjoyed it. I mean, that's where our friends were, so we couldn't wait to get to church to see our friends, and you know, my parents just were so real at home. We had a home full of laughter and peace, and they lived what they preached, and so it was just also natural. It was a great example to us, and we enjoyed it.
Yeah, and you kind of had these parents that were kind of mavericks in a way. We talked about starting this church in an abandoned feed store, which a lot of people say they wouldn't start a church until they could actually have the building in place and the whole bit. And for them, church was in them.
That's exactly right. And you know, they just started where they could. And you know, they just were so faithful over the years, and it just grew because I think of their loving example, because they accepted all people. And you know, I really honor my parents for what they put into us.
Yeah. What was it like growing up in that atmosphere, though? Because you know what they say about the preacher's kids. No. You're in this fishbowl where everyone's looking at you.
Yes, I know. You know, I didn't feel that way. I don't think my brothers and sisters felt that way, because my parents didn't put us on display as like we're supposed to be the perfect children. You know, when we messed up, we messed up. And you know, I just didn't ever feel that way, and I think that took a lot of pressure off of me. And even when I went through a divorce, you know, in my early 20s, you know, my dad just got up and said, look, my daughter went through a divorce. She's struggling. She needs prayer. And, you know, at first I thought, man, Daddy, do you want to tell that to the congregation? Yeah. And I don't, you know, expect everybody to do that. But it was good for us, because my dad said, you know, we're real. People know we're human. We make mistakes like anyone else, and so why should we pretend? Yeah. You know, to be perfect.
And sometimes Christians do that. I think. Well, anybody of any religion, you feel ashamed that you haven't risen to a certain occasion, but there is always the realization that we are human. We are not perfect. We can strive to be, but we're not. I have a couple of friends who grew up with their parents as pastors of a church, and one thing they say sometimes is a struggle is your parents aren't only parents to you, but they're parents to a congregation. When there's a wedding, someone says, can you do my wedding? When there's a funeral, got to talk to you. When they're going through a tough time in a marriage, got to talk to you. Yes. How was that balance in your family? Because, you know, your parents, let alone having a number of kids.
Yes. Well, you know what? That is such a source of strife, I think, in homes of ministers. And we're always encouraging people, pastors, ministers, put your family first. Because that's what my mom and dad did. And, you know, my dad, he was wise enough to just put us on the calendar. And so, you know, he'd say, this is the day I spend with my family. And people would call and say, can you do a wedding or funeral? No, I've already got something on that day. And we were on his calendar that day. And we'll never forget that, how he just put us first. And he would always say, if I reach the whole world and lose my family, then I'm a failure. And so I just love that about him. And we encourage pastors and ministers to do the same.
Yeah, and growing up with again, never wanting for a friend, because how many kids in the family?
There's 5 of us.
5 of you in the family. And there's that calling that we talk about. Did you always know that you would be somewhere in the ministry, or did you want to do something else at some point?
You know, when I was a teenager, I just had this desire, and I think it was a God-given desire to really study the Bible. And so now I can look back and realize that was God, you know, bringing that gift out of me, because I'm a Bible teacher today, one of the teaching pastors at Lakewood. And so, yeah, I did have that desire. Another reason I had the desire is because I enjoyed being at the church and the ministry, and I saw how impactful it was for my parents to, you know, to touch people's lives, see them changed. And I had a desire because of that, too.
Yeah, it's really part of your personality.
It is.
Growing up in that church.
It's in my life.
There was one day at the church when something happened that kind of reaffirmed your belief in God, reaffirmed your belief in miracles, and a package arrived.
You're right. January 30th, 1990, and it was a real heavy package. But my parents received packages all the time, but I was hesitant about this package, and I picked it up, put it down 3 times. It was in and out of my hands because I didn't know why, but I thought there's something unusual about it. Put it down on my lap, and instead of putting it long ways, I put it this way, and when I opened that flap, it exploded all over me. And except it exploded out the ends, missed most of me, and these 10-inch nails went into the walls of my office. It did tear up my skin on my abdomen and my leg, but you know, it was a real miracle, Deborah, that I even survived that. And even a paramedic on the scene said, you know, someone had to be standing between you and that bomb, and I really believe that.
Yeah, I think you got some amens from the audience.
Yes.
Over here. And of course, there's that huge why, because sometimes as Christians we think that, you know, or things like that just shouldn't happen to us. And what was it that you could possibly did to deserve something like that? And you can't even
can't,
fathom.
and we don't understand everything. And you know, the media during that time, you know, they would say to us, "Well, that was just a bad break. Your daughter was lucky." They said to my dad, but you know, my dad sort of turned it around, and he said, "No, she wasn't lucky. She didn't have a bad break. You know what? God just spared her life, and it's a miracle, and we're blessed because of it." And I think in my mind and in the mind of the congregation, he just changed our thinking to just look at it as, we don't know why this happened, but thank God she's alive. God did protect her. And that's the way we have to think about all the things in our
and I
lives.
love that point. I know when I had a brain aneurysm and I had a 10% chance of being just fine, people would say, "Oh, you're lucky. You survived." And I go, "No, I'm blessed that I
That's so
survived."
true,
Because
yes.
I realized the difference in my life. How did that make you look at things a little differently, or just reaffirm it?
Well, you know, right after it happened, I came home, I was fearful.
Yeah.
And so I had to fight through that fear. And I did. I knew that I was made for more than just spiraling down into this dark hole of depression and fear. And so I fought through it, and I just kept going to work and doing the things I always did. But I think it just made me realize how real God is and how he has his hand upon us. And I think it reaffirmed that what God did for me, I can encourage people that he'll do the same for them. He'll take care of us no matter what.
Yeah, it's almost like when bad things come your way, that you ask the question, you know, what am I supposed to learn from this lesson, and what can I teach somebody else from this lesson?
Yes.
When we come back, from divorce to her struggle to have children, God didn't do it, he got her through it. What Lisa has learned that could help others facing hardship, and the reason why she wrote this book.